This week's Grimm Fairy Tales. The Golden Bird. In the olden time there was a king who had behind his palace a beautiful pleasure garden in which there was a tree that bore golden apples. When the apples were getting ripe, they were counted, but on the very next morning one was missing. This was told to the king, and he ordered that a watch should be kept every night beneath the tree. The king had 3 sons, the eldest of whom he sent, as soon as night came on, into the garden. But when midnight came, he could not keep himself from sleeping. And next morning again, an apple was gone. The following night the second son had to keep watch. It fared no better with him. As soon as 12 o'clock had struck, he fell asleep. And in the morning an apple was gone. Now it came to the turn of the third son to watch, and he was quite ready, but the king had not much trust in him, and thought he would be of less use even than his brothers. But at last he let him go. The youth lay down beneath the tree, but kept awake, and did not let sleep master him. When it struck 12, something rustled through the air, and in the moonlight he saw a bird coming, whose feathers were all shining with gold. The bird alighted on the tree, and had just plucked off an apple when the youth shot an arrow at him. The bird flew off, but the arrow had struck his plumage, and one of his golden feathers fell down. The youth picked it up, and the next morning took it to the king and told him what he had seen in the night. The king called his council together, and everyone declared that a feather like this was worth more than the whole kingdom. "If the feather is so precious," declared the king, "one alone will not do for me. I must and will have the whole bird." The eldest son set out. He trusted to his cleverness and thought that he would easily find the golden bird. When he had gone some distance, he saw a fox sitting at the edge of a wood. So he cocked his gun and took aim at him. The fox cried, "Do not shoot me, and in return I will give you some good counsel. You are on the way to the golden bird, and this evening you will come to a village in which stand 2 inns opposite to one another. One of them is lighted up brightly, and all goes on merrily within. But do not go into it. Go rather into the other, even though it seems a bad one." "How can such a silly beast give wise advice?" thought the king's son, and he pulled the trigger, but he missed the fox, who stretched out his tail and ran quickly into the wood. So he pursued his way, and by evening came to the village where the 2 inns were. In one they were singing and dancing, the other had a poor, miserable look. "I should be a fool indeed," he thought, "if I were to go into the shabby tavern and pass by the good one." So he went into the cheerful one, lived there in riot and revel, and forgot the bird and his father, and all good counsels. When some time had passed, and the eldest son for month after month did not come back home, the second set out, wishing to find the golden bird. The fox met him, as he had met the eldest, and gave him the advice, of which he took no heed. He came to the 2 inns, and his brother was standing at the window of the one from which came the music, and called out to him. He could not resist, but went inside and lived only for pleasure. Again some time passed, and then the king's youngest son wanted to set off and try his luck, but his father would not allow it. "It is of no use," he said. "He will find the golden bird still less than his brothers, and if a mishap were to befall him, he knows not how to help himself. He is a little wanting at the best." But at last, as he had no peace, he let him go. Again the fox was sitting outside the wood, and begged for his life and offered his good advice. The youth was good-natured and said, "Be easy, little fox. I will do you no harm." "You shall not repent it," answered the fox, "and that you may get on more quickly, get up behind on my tail." And scarcely had he seated himself when the fox began to run, and away he went over stock and stone till his hair whistled in the wind. When they came to the village, the youth got off. He followed the good advice and without looking round turned into the little inn where he spent the night quietly. The next morning, as soon as he got into the open country, there sat the fox already and said, "I will tell you further what you have to do. Go on quite straight, and at last you will come to a castle, in front of which a whole regiment of soldiers is lying. But do not trouble yourself about them, for they will be all asleep and snoring. Go through the midst of them straight into the castle, and go through all the rooms, till at last you will come to a chamber where a golden bird is hanging in a wooden cage. Close by there stands an empty gold cage for show, but beware of taking the bird out of the common cage and putting it into the fine one, or it may go badly with you." With these words the fox again stretched out his tail, and the king's son seated himself upon it, and away he went over stock and stone till his hair whistled in the wind. When he came to the castle he found everything as the fox had said. The king's son went into the chamber where the golden bird was shut up in a wooden cage, whilst a golden one stood hard by, and the 3 golden apples lay about the room. "But," thought he, "it would be absurd if I were to leave the beautiful bird in the common and ugly cage." So he opened the door, laid hold of it, and put it into the golden cage, but at the same moment the bird uttered a shrill cry. The soldiers awoke, rushed in, and took him off to prison. The next morning he was taken before a court of justice, and as he confessed everything, was sentenced to death. The king, however, said that he would grant him his life on one condition, namely, if he brought him the golden horse which ran faster than the wind, and in that case he should receive, over and above, as a reward, the golden bird. The king's son set off, but he sighed and was sorrowful, for how was he to find the golden horse? But all at once he saw his old friend the fox sitting on the road. "Look you," said the fox, "this has happened because you did not give heed to me. However, be of good courage. I will give you my help and tell you how to get to the golden horse. You must go straight on, and you will come to a castle, where in the stable stands the horse. The grooms will be lying in front of the stable, but they will be asleep and snoring, and you can quietly lead out the golden horse. But of one thing you must take heed. Put on him the common saddle of wood and leather, and not the golden one, which hangs close by, else it will go ill with you." Then the fox stretched out his tail. The king's son seated himself upon it, and away he went over stock and stone until his hair whistled in the wind. Everything happened just as the fox had said. The prince came to the stable in which the golden horse was standing, but just as he was going to put the common saddle upon him, he thought, "It will be a shame to such a beautiful beast if I do not give him the good saddle, which belongs to him by right." But scarcely had the golden saddle touched the horse than he began to neigh loudly. The grooms awoke, seized the youth, and threw him into prison. The next morning he was sentenced by the court to death, but the king promised to grant him his life and the golden horse as well, if he could bring back the beautiful princess from the golden castle. With a heavy heart the youth set out, yet luckily for him he soon found the trusty fox. "I ought only to leave you to your ill luck," said the fox, "but I pity you, and will help you once more out of your trouble. This road takes you straight to the golden castle. You will reach it by eventide, and at night when everything is quiet the beautiful princess goes to the bathing house to bathe. When she enters it, run up to her and give her a kiss. Then she will follow you and you can take her away with you. Only do not allow her to take leave of her parents first, or it will go ill with you." Then the fox stretched out his tail. The king's son seated himself upon it, And away the fox went over stock and stone till his hair whistled in the wind. When he reached the golden castle, it was just as the fox had said. He waited until midnight when everything lay in deep sleep, and the beautiful princess was going to the bathing house. Then he sprang out and gave her a kiss. She said that she would like to go with him, but she asked him pitifully, and with tears, to allow her first to take leave of her parents. At first he withstood her prayer, but when she wept more and more, and fell at his feet, he at last gave in. But no sooner had the maiden reached the bedside of her father than he and all the rest in the castle awoke, and the youth was laid hold of and put into prison. The next morning the king said to him, "Your life is forfeited, and you can only find mercy if you take away the hill which stands in front of my windows and prevents my seeing beyond it, and you must finish it all within 8 days. If you do that, you shall have my daughter as your reward." The king's son began and dug and shoveled without leaving off, but when after 7 days he saw how little he had done, and how all his work was as good as nothing, he fell into great sorrow and gave up all hope. But on the evening of the 7th day the fox appeared and said, "You do not deserve that I should take any trouble about you, but just go away and lie down to sleep, and I will do the work for you." The next morning, when he awoke and looked out of the window, the hill had gone. The youth ran full of joy to the king and told him that the task was fulfilled, and whether he liked it or not, the king had to hold to his word and give him his daughter. So the two set forth together, and it was not long before the trusty fox came up with them. "You have certainly got what is best," said he, "but the golden horse also belongs to the maiden of the golden castle." "How shall I get it?" asked the youth. "That I will tell you," answered the fox. "First, take the beautiful maiden to the king who sent you to the golden castle. There will be unheard of rejoicing. They will gladly give you the golden horse and will bring it out to you. Mount it as soon as possible, and offer your hand to all in farewell, last of all to the beautiful maiden. And as soon as you have taken her hand, swing her up onto the horse and gallop away, and no one will be able to bring you back, for the horse runs faster than the wind." All was carried out successfully, and the king's son carried off the beautiful princess on the golden horse. The fox did not remain behind, and he said to the youth, "Now I will help you to get the golden bird. When you come near to the castle where the golden bird is to be found, let the maiden get down, and I will take her into my care. Then ride with the golden horse into the castle yard. There will be great rejoicing at the sight, and they will bring out the golden bird for you. As soon as you have the cage in your hand, gallop back to us and take the maiden away again." When the plan had succeeded, and the king's son was about to ride home with his treasures, the fox said, "Now you shall reward me for my help." "What do you require for it?" asked the youth. "When you get into the wood yonder, shoot me dead and chop off my head and feet." "That would be fine gratitude," said the king's son. "I cannot possibly do that for you." The fox said, "If you will not do it, I must leave you. But before I go away, I will give you a piece of good advice. Be careful about 2 things. Buy no gallows flesh, and do not sit at the edge of any well." And then he ran into the wood. The youth thought, "That is a wonderful beast. He has strange whims. Who is going to buy gallows flesh? And the desire to sit at the edge of a well, it has never yet seized me." He rode on with the beautiful maiden, and his road took him again through the village in which his 2 brothers had remained. There was a great stir and noise, and when he had asked what was going on, he was told that 2 men were going to be hanged. As he came nearer to the place, he saw that they were his brothers, who had been playing all kinds of wicked pranks and had squandered all their wealth. he inquired whether they could not be set free. "If you will pay me for them," answered the people. "But why should you waste your money on wicked men and buy them free?" He did not think twice about it, but paid for them, and when they were set free, they all went on their way together. They came to the wood where the fox had first met them. As it was cool and pleasant within, the two brothers said, "Let us rest a little by the well and eat and drink." He agreed, and whilst they were talking, he forgot himself and sat down upon the edge of the well without thinking of any evil. But the two brothers threw him backwards into the well and took the maiden, the horse, and the bird, and went home to their father. "Here we bring you not only the golden bird," said they, "we have won the golden horse also and the maiden from the golden castle." Then was there great joy, but the horse would not eat, the bird would not sing, and the maiden sat and wept. But the youngest brother was not dead. By good fortune the well was dry, and he fell upon soft moss without being hurt. But he could not get out again. Even in this strait the faithful fox did not leave him. It came and leapt down to him and upbraided him for having forgotten its advice. "But yet I cannot give it up so," he said. "I will help you up again into daylight." He bade himself grasp his tail and keep tight hold of it, and then he pulled him up. "You are not out of all danger yet," said the fox. "Your brothers were not sure of your death, and have surrounded the wood with watchers who are to kill you if you let yourself be seen." But a poor man was sitting upon the road, with whom the youth changed clothes, and in this way he got to the king's palace. No one knew him, but the bird began to sing, the horse began to eat, and the beautiful maiden left off weeping. The king, astonished, asked, "What does this mean?" Then the maiden said, "I do not know, but I have been so sorrowful, and now I am so happy. I feel as if my true bridegroom has come." She told him all that had happened, although the other brothers had threatened her with death if she were to betray anything. The king commanded that all people who were in the castle should be brought before him, and amongst them came the youth in his ragged clothes. But the maiden knew him at once and fell upon his neck. The wicked brothers were seized and put to death, but he was married to the beautiful maiden and declared heir to the king. But how did it fare with the poor fox? Long afterwards the king's son was once again walking in the wood, when the fox met him and said, "You have everything now that you can wish for, but there is never an end to my misery, and yet it is in your power to free me." And again he asked him with tears to shoot him dead and chop off his head and feet. So he did it, and scarcely was it done when the fox was changed into a man, and was no other than the brother of the beautiful princess, who at last was freed from the magic charm which had been laid upon him. And now nothing more was wanting to their happiness as long as they lived. Brother Lustig. There was once on a time a great war, and when it came to an end, many soldiers were discharged. Then Brother Lustig also received his dismissal, and besides that, nothing but a small loaf of contract bread and 4 krauses in money, with which he departed. St. Peter had, however, placed himself in his way in the shape of a poor beggar, and when Brother Lustig came up, he begged alms of him. Brother Lustig replied, "Dear beggar man, what am I to give you? I have been a soldier and have received my dismissal, and have nothing but this little loaf of contract bread and 4 krauses of money. When that is gone, I shall have to beg as well as you. Still, I will give you something." Thereupon, he divided the loaf into 4 parts, and gave the apostle one of them, and a krauser likewise. St. Peter thanked him, went onwards, and threw himself again in the soldier's way as a beggar, but in another shape, and when he came up begged as a gift of him as before. Brother Lustig spoke as he had done before, and again gave him a quarter of the loaf and 1 krauser. St. Peter thanked him and went onwards, but for the third time placed himself in another shape as a beggar on the road, and spoke to Brother Lustig. Brother Lustig gave him also the third quarter of bread and the third krauser. St. Peter thanked him, and Brother Lustig went onwards, and had but a quarter of the loaf and one krauser. With that he went into an inn, ate the bread, and ordered 1 krauser's worth of beer. When he had had it, he journeyed onwards, and then St. Peter, who had assumed the appearance of a discharged soldier, met and spoke to him thus: "Good day, comrade. Canst thou not give me a bit of bread, and a krauser to get a drink?"
"Where am I to procure it?" answered Brother Lustig. "I have been discharged, and I got nothing but a loaf of ammunition bread and 4 krausers in money. I met 3 beggars on the road, and I gave each of them a quarter of my bread and 1 krauser. The last quarter I ate in the inn, and had a drink with the last krauser. Now my pockets are empty, and if thou also hast nothing, we can go a-begging together."
"No," answered St. Peter. "We need not quite do that. I know a little about medicine, and I will soon earn as much as I require by that."
"Indeed," said Brother Lustig, "I know nothing of that, so I must go and beg alone."
"Just come with me," said St. Peter, "and if I earn anything, thou shalt have half of it."
"All right,"
said Brother Lustig. So they went away together. Then they came to a peasant's house, inside which they heard loud lamentations and cries. So they went in, and there the husband was lying sick unto death, and very near his end, and his wife was crying and weeping quite loudly. "Stop that howling and crying," said St. Peter. "I will make the man well again." And he took a salve out of his pocket, and healed the sick man in a moment, so that he could get up and was in perfect health. In great delight the man and his wife said, "How can we reward you? What shall we give you?" But St. Peter would take nothing, and the more the peasant folks offered him, the more he refused. Brother Lustig, however, nudged St. Peter and said,
"Take something. Sure enough, we are in need of it."
At length the woman brought a lamb and said to St. Peter that he really must take that, but he would not. Then Brother Lustig gave him a poke in the side and said,
"Do take it, you stupid fool, we are in great want of it."
Then St. Peter said at last, "Well, I will take the lamb, but I won't carry it. If thou wilt insist on having it, thou must carry it."
"That is nothing," said Brother Lustig. "I will easily carry it,"
and took it on his shoulders. Then they departed and came to a wood. But Brother Lustig had begun to feel the lamb heavy, and he was hungry. So he said to St. Peter,
"Look, that's a good place. We might cook the lamb there and eat it."
"As you like," answered St. Peter. "But I can't have anything to do with the cooking. If thou wilt cook, there is a kettle for thee, and in the meantime I will walk about a little until it is ready. Thou must, however, not begin to eat until I have come back. I will come at the right time."
"Well, go then," said Brother Lustig. "I understand cookery. I will manage it."
Then St. Peter went away, and Brother Lustig killed the lamb, lighted a fire, threw the meat into the kettle, and boiled it. The lamb was, however, quite ready, and the Apostle Peter had not come back. So Brother Lustig took it out of the kettle, cut it up, and found the heart.
"That is said to be the best part,"
said he, and tasted it. But at last he ate it all up. At length St. Peter returned and said, "Thou mayest eat the whole of the lamb thyself. I will only have the heart. Give me that." Then Brother Lustig took a knife and fork and pretended to look anxiously about amongst the lamb's flesh, but not able to find the heart, and at last he said abruptly,
"There is none here."
"But where can it be?" said the apostle.
"I don't know. replied Brother Lustig. "But look, what fools we both are, to seek for the lamb's heart and neither of us to remember that a lamb has no heart." "Oh," said St. Peter, "that is something quite new. Every animal has a heart. Why is a lamb to have none?" "No, be assured, my brother," said Brother Lustig, "that a lamb has no heart. Just consider it seriously, and then you will see that it really has none." "Well, it is all right," said St. Peter. "If there is no heart, then I want none of the lamb. Thou mayest eat it alone. What I can eat now, I will carry away in my knapsack," said Brother Lustig, and he ate half the lamb and put the rest in his knapsack. They went farther, and then St. Peter caused a great stream of water to flow right across their path, and they were obliged to pass through it. Said St. Peter, "Do thou go first." "No," answered Brother Lustig, "thou must go first." And he thought, "If the water is too deep, I will stay behind." Then St. Peter strode through it, and the water just reached to his knee. So Brother Lustig began to go through also, but the water grew deeper and reached to his throat. Then he cried, "Brother, help me." St. Peter said, "Then wilt thou confess that thou hast eaten the lamb's heart?" "No," said he, "I have not eaten it." Then the water grew deeper still and rose to his mouth. "Help me, brother," cried the soldier. St. Peter said, "Then wilt thou confess that thou hast eaten the lamb's heart?" "No," he replied, "I have not eaten it." St. Peter, however, would not let him be drowned, but made the water sink and helped him through it. Then they journeyed onwards and came to a kingdom where they heard that the king's daughter lay sick unto death. "Hullo, brother," said the soldier to St. Peter. "This is a chance for us. If we can heal her, we shall be provided for life." But St. Peter was not half quick enough for him. "Come, lift your legs, my dear brother," said he, "that we may get there in time." But St. Peter walked slower and slower, though Brother Lustig did all he could to drive and push him on, and at last they heard that the princess was dead. "Now we are done for," said Brother Lustig. "That comes of thy sleepy way of walking." "Just be quiet," answered St. Peter. "I can do more than cure sick people. I can bring dead ones to life again." "Well, if thou canst do that," said Brother Lustig, "it's all right, but thou shouldst earn at least half the kingdom for us by that." Then they went to the royal palace, where everyone was in great grief, but St. Peter told the king that he would restore his daughter to life. He was taken to her and said, "Bring me a kettle and some water." And when that was brought, he bade everyone go out and allowed no one to remain with him but Brother Lustig. Then he cut off all the dead girl's limbs and threw them in the water, lighted a fire beneath the kettle and boiled them. And when the flesh had fallen away from the bones, he took out the beautiful white bones and laid them on a table, and arranged them together in their natural order. When he had done that, he stepped forward and said 3 times, "In the name of the Holy Trinity, dead woman, arise." And at the 3rd time, the princess arose, living, healthy, and beautiful. Then the king was in the greatest joy and said to St. Peter, "Ask for thy reward. Even if it were half my kingdom, I would give it thee." But St. Peter said, "I want nothing for it." "Oh, thou tomfool," thought Brother Lustig to himself, and nudged his comrade's side, and said, "Don't be stupid. If thou hast no need of anything, I have." St. Peter, however, would have nothing, but as the king saw that the other would very much like to have something, he ordered his treasurer to fill Brother Lustig's knapsack with gold. Then they went on their way, and when they came to a forest, St. Peter said to Brother Lustig, "Now we will divide the gold." "Yes," he replied, "we will." So St. Peter divided the gold and divided it into 3 heaps. Brother Lustig thought to himself, "What craze has he got in his head now? He is making 3 shares, and there are only 2 of us."
But St. Peter said, I have divided it exactly. There is one share for me, one for thee, and one for him who ate the lamb's heart.
Oh, I ate that,
replied Brother Lustig, and hastily swept up the gold.
You may trust what I say.
But how can that be true, said St. Peter, when a lamb has no heart?
Hey, what, brother? What can you be thinking of? Lambs have hearts like other animals. Why should only they have none?
Well, so be it, said St. Peter. Keep the gold to yourself, but I will stay with you no longer. I will go my way alone.
As you like, dear brother,
answered Brother Lustig.
Farewell.
Then St. Peter went a different road, but Brother Lustig thought,
It is a good thing that he has taken himself off. He is certainly a strange saint after all.
Then he had money enough, but did not know how to manage it, squandered it, gave it away, and when some time had gone by, once more had nothing. Then he arrived in a certain country where he heard that a king's daughter was dead.
Oh ho, thought he, that may be a good thing for me. I will bring her to life again and see that I am paid as I ought to be.
So he went to the king and offered to raise the dead girl to life again. Now the king had heard that a discharged soldier was traveling about and bringing dead persons to life again, and thought that Brother Lustig was the man. But as he had no confidence in him, he consulted his counselors first, who said that he might give it a trial, as his daughter was dead. Then Brother Lustig ordered water to be brought to him in a kettle, bade everyone go out, cut the limbs off, threw them in the water, and lighted a fire beneath, just as he had seen St. Peter do. The water began to boil, the flesh fell off, and then he took the bones out and laid them on the table. But he did not know the order in which to lay them, and placed them all wrong and in confusion. Then he stood before them and said,
In the name of the most holy Trinity, dead maiden, I bid thee arise.
And he said this thrice, but the bones did not stir. So he said it thrice more, but also in vain.
Confounded girl that you are, get up, he cried. Get up, or it shall be worse for you.
When he had said that, St. Peter suddenly appeared in his former shape as a discharged soldier. He entered by the window and said, Godless man, what art thou doing? How can the dead maiden arise, when thou hast thrown about her bones in such confusion?
Dear brother, I have done everything to the best of my ability, he answered.
This once I will help thee out of thy difficulty. But one thing I tell thee, and that is that if ever thou undertakest anything of the kind again, it will be worse for thee, and also that thou must neither demand nor accept the smallest thing from the king for this. Thereupon St. Peter laid the bones in their right order, said to the maiden 3 times, In the name of the most holy Trinity, dead maiden arise. And the king's daughter arose, healthy and beautiful as before. Then St. Peter went away again by the window, and Brother Lustig was rejoiced to find that all had passed off so well, but was very much vexed to think that after all he was not to take anything for it.
I should just like to know, thought he, what fancy that fellow has got in his head. For what he gives with one hand he takes away with the other. There is no sense whatever in it.
Then the king offered Brother Lustig whatsoever he wished to have, but he did not dare to take anything. However, by hints and cunning, he contrived to make the king order his knapsack to be filled with gold for him, and with that he departed. When he got out, St. Peter was standing by the door and said, Just look what a man thou art. Did I not forbid thee to take anything? And there thou hast thy knapsack full of gold.
How can I help that? Answered Brother Lustig, if people will put it in for me.
Well, I tell thee this, that if ever thou settest about anything of this kind again, thou shalt suffer for it.
Brother, have no fear. Now I have money. Why should I trouble myself with washing bones?"
"Faith," said St. Peter, "the gold will last a long time, in order that after this thou mayest never tread in forbidden paths. I will bestow on thy knapsack this property, namely, that whatsoever thou wishest to have inside it shall be there. Farewell, thou wilt now never see me more."
"Goodbye,"
said Brother Lustig, and thought to himself,
"I am very glad that thou hast taken thyself off, thou strange fellow. I shall certainly not follow thee."
But of the magical power which had been bestowed on his knapsack, he thought no more. Brother Lustig traveled about with his money, and squandered and wasted what he had as before. When at last he had no more than 4 krauses, he passed by an inn and thought,
"The money must go,"
and ordered 3 krauses worth of wine and 1 krauser's worth of bread for himself. As he was sitting there drinking, the smell of roast goose made its way to his nose. Brother Lustig looked about and peeped, and saw the host had 2 geese standing in the oven. Then he remembered that his comrade had said that whatsoever he wished to have in his knapsack should be there. So he said,
"Oh ho, I must try that with the geese."
So he went out, and when he was outside the door, he said,
"I wish those 2 roasted geese out of the oven and in my knapsack."
And when he had said that, he unbuckled it and looked in, and there they were inside it.
"Ah, that's right," said he. "Now I am a made man,"
and went away to a meadow and took out the roast meat. When he was in the midst of his meal, 2 journeymen came up and looked at the second goose, which was not yet touched, with hungry eyes. Brother Lustig thought to himself,
"One is enough for me,"
and called the 2 men up and said,
"Take the goose and eat it to my health."
They thanked him, and went with it to the inn, ordered themselves a half bottle of wine and a loaf, took out the goose which had been given them, and began to eat. The hostess saw them and said to her husband, "Those 2 are eating a goose. Just look and see if it is not one of ours, out of the oven." The landlord ran thither, and behold, the oven was empty. "What?" cried he. "You thievish crew, you want to eat goose as cheap as that? Pay for it in this moment, or I will wash you well with green hazel sap." The 2 said, "We are no thieves. A discharged soldier gave us the goose outside, there in the meadow." "You shall not throw dust in my eyes that way. The soldier was here, but he went out by the door, like an honest fellow. I looked after him myself. You are the thieves and shall pay." But as they could not pay, he took a stick and cudgeled them out of the house. Brother Lustig went his way and came to a place where there was a magnificent castle, and not far from it a wretched inn. He went to the inn and asked for a night's lodging, but the landlord turned him away and said, "There's no more room here. The house is full of noble guests."
"It surprises me that they should come to you and not go to that splendid castle," said Brother Lustig.
"Ah, indeed," replied the host, "but it is no slight matter to sleep there for a night. No one who has tried it so far has ever come out of it alive."
"If others have tried it," said Brother Lustig, "I will try it too."
"Leave it alone," said the host. "It will cost you your neck."
"It won't kill me at once," said Brother Lustig. "Just give me the key and some good food and wine."
So the host gave him the key, and food and wine, and with this Brother Lustig went into the castle, enjoyed his supper, and at length, as he was sleepy, he lay down on the ground, for there was no bed. He soon fell asleep, but during the night was disturbed by a great noise, and when he awoke he saw 9 ugly devils in the room, who had made a circle and were dancing around him. Brother Lustig said,
"Well, dance as long as you like, but none of you must come too close."
But the devils pressed continually nearer to him, and almost stepped on his face with their hideous feet.
"Stop, you devil's ghosts,"
said he. But they behaved still worse. Then Brother Lustig grew angry and cried,
"Holla! But I will soon make it quiet,"
and got the leg of a chair and struck out into the midst of them with it. But 9 devils against 1 soldier were still too many, and when he struck those in front of him, the others seized him behind by the hair and tore it unmercifully.
"Devil's crew," cried he, "it is getting too bad, but wait, into my knapsack all 9 of you."
In an instant they were in it, and then he buckled it up and threw it into a corner. After this all was suddenly quiet, and Brother Lustig lay down again and slept till it was bright day. Then came the innkeeper and the nobleman to whom the castle belonged, to see how he had fared. But when they perceived that he was merry and well, they were astonished and asked, "Have the spirits done you no harm then?"
"The reason why they have not," answered Brother Lustig, "is because I have got the whole 9 of them in my knapsack. You may once more inhabit your castle quite tranquilly. None of them will ever haunt it again."
The nobleman thanked him, made him rich presents, and begged him to remain in his service, and he would provide for him as long as he lived.
"No," replied Brother Lustig, "I am used to wandering about. I will travel farther."
Then he went away and entered into a smithy, laid the knapsack which contained the 9 devils on the anvil, and asked the smith and his apprentices to strike it. So they smote with their great hammers with all their strength, and the devils uttered howls which were quite pitiable. When he opened the knapsack after this, 8 of them were dead, but 1 which had been lying in a fold of it was still alive, slipped out and went back again to hell. Thereupon Brother Lustig traveled a long time about the world, and those who knew them can tell many a story about him. But at last he grew old, and thought of his end, so he went to a hermit who was known to be a pious man, and said to him,
"I am tired of wandering about, and want now to behave in such a manner that I shall enter into the kingdom of heaven."
The hermit replied, "There are 2 roads. One is broad and pleasant, and leads to hell. The other is narrow and rough, and leads to heaven."
"I should be a fool," thought Brother Lustig, "if I were to take the narrow, rough road."
So he set out and took the broad and pleasant road, and at length came to a great black door, which was the door of hell. Brother Lustig knocked, and the doorkeeper peeped out to see who was there. But when he saw Brother Lustig, he was terrified, for he was the very same 9th devil who had been shut up in the knapsack, and had escaped from it with a black eye. So he pushed the bolt in again as quickly as he could, ran to the devil's lieutenant and said, "There is a fellow outside with a knapsack who wants to come in, but as you value your lives, don't allow him to enter, or he will wish the whole of hell into his knapsack. He once gave me a frightful hammering when I was inside it." So they called out to Brother Lustig that he was to go away, for he should not get in there.
"If they won't have me here," thought he, "I will see if I can find a place for myself in heaven, for I must be somewhere."
So he turned about and went onwards until he came to the door of heaven, where he knocked. St. Peter was sitting hard by as doorkeeper. Brother Lustig recognized him at once and thought,
"Here I find an old friend. I shall get on better."
But St. Peter said, "I really believe that thou wantest to come into heaven."
"Let me in, brother. I must get in somewhere. If they would have taken me into hell, I should have not come here."
"No," said St. Peter, "thou shalt not enter."
"Then if thou wilt not let me in, take thy knapsack back, for I will have nothing at all from thee."
"Give it here, then," said St. Peter. Then Brother Lustig gave him the knapsack into heaven through the bars, and St. Peter took it, and hung it beside his seat. Then said Brother Lustig,
"And now I wish myself inside my knapsack."
and in a second he was in it, and in heaven, and St. Peter was forced to let him stay there. The bright sun brings it to light. A tailor's apprentice was traveling about the world in search of work, and at one time he could find none, and his poverty was so great that he had not a farthing to live on. Presently he met a Jew on the road, and as he thought he would have a great deal of money about him, the tailor thrust God out of his heart, fell on the Jew, and said,
"Give me thy money, or I will strike thee dead."
Then said the Jew, "Grant me my life. I have no money but 8 farthings. But the tailor said, "Money thou hast, and it shall be produced," and used violence and beat him until he was near death. And when the Jew was dying, the last words he said were, "The bright sun will bring it to light." And thereupon he died. The tailor's apprentice felt in his pockets and sought for money, but he found nothing but 8 farthings, as the Jew had said. Then he took him up and carried him behind a clump of trees, and went onwards to seek work. After he had traveled about a long while, he got work in a town with a master who had a pretty daughter, with whom he fell in love, and he married her, and lived in good and happy wedlock. After a long time, when he and his wife had 2 children, the wife's father and mother died, and the young people kept house alone. One morning, when the husband was sitting on the table before the window, his wife brought him his coffee, and when he had poured it out into the saucer and was just going to drink, the sun shone on it, and the reflection gleamed hither and thither on the wall above, and made circles on it. Then the tailor looked up and said, "Yes, it would like very much to bring it to light, and cannot." The woman said, "Oh, dear husband, and what is that then?" "What dost thou mean by that?" He answered, "I must not tell thee." But she said, "If thou lovest me, thou must tell me," and used her most affectionate words, and said that no one should ever know it, and left him no rest. Then he told her how years ago, when he was traveling about seeking work, and quite worn out and penniless, he had killed a Jew, and that in the last agonies of death the Jew had spoken the words, "The bright sun will bring it to light." And now the sun had just wanted to bring it to light, and had gleamed and made circles on the wall, but had not been able to do it. After this he again charged her particularly never to tell this, or he would lose his life, and she did promise. When, however, he had sat down to work again, she went to her great friend and confided the story to her, but she was never to repeat it to any human being. But before 2 days were over, the whole town knew it, and the tailor was brought to trial and condemned, and thus, after all, the bright sun did bring it to light.